there are times I don't rent a car that I used to, and it's because I'll do a calculation if I'm going to a place that it's expensive to park a car, or the cost of the daily rental is very high. I'll then try to figure out, I'll go online and see what's it likely to cost for the various trips I'll have to make if I do Uber or Lyft, and you can do estimates at either of them. But the prices of Uber and Lyft are all over the place. And this is something that we tend to do. I talked about it the other day with Amazon, that people tend to become a creature of habit. They'll download, in most cases it'll be Uber, because Uber has 77% market share now in rideshare. And they'll just go and see whatever Uber's charging. Well, I always check both. And I strongly recommend checking both, because I was at an airport last week and I landed, I pulled up Uber, and it was $112 for the ride from the airport. And I was like, $112? All my math went out the window. I should have rented a car. So then I pulled up Lyft. Lyft was $46. I mean, think about that difference. And I do this every time I get in one. I check the price of both. And there's not really a clear pattern which is cheaper. It just depends on the trip. But, you know, one or the other will be trying to attract drivers. They'll 2x or 3x the rate. And then drivers come out of the woodwork and they take those trips. It is true capitalism at work. But Lyft is in a bad way right now, suffering from a loss of market share and having a hard time attracting drivers. And there's something else, Christa, you and I have both experienced with Lyft, and that is a driver will accept the trip and then cancel. And then the next driver will accept the trip and cancel. And it will happen with Uber, but it may be that it's not scientific, obviously, and it may be just a freak show. But my daughter was telling me, my middle child was telling me that she booked a Lyft and 5 drivers in a row canceled her. 5. And then she switched to Uber and booked a driver, and they showed up.
Mm-hmm. This just happened to me in Boston as well. I couldn't believe it. I used to use Lyft all the time because they were usually cheaper, but I had that free Lyft Pink with my Chase Sapphire Reserve card, but that went away, so I don't have that for free anymore.
What is Lyft Pink?
It's like supposedly you'll get a driver sooner and you'll have priority and stuff. And I have.
Oh, so it's like a monthly subscription?
Yes, and I have a perfect rating on Lyft and Uber, but I.
You're a 5.0.
Oh yeah, I went to check.
I'm not.
my Lyft, and I checked Lyft when we were taking these drives, and Lyft was definitely consistently more expensive, at least on this last trip to Boston. And the same thing happened to me. I never had someone not change, so I would cancel the ride, and my daughter would use her Uber because she uses Uber a lot, and it was cheaper and faster, like to get there. And I talked to my Uber driver on the way to the airport, and he said that definitely for him, he makes a lot more right now with Uber. And in the past, when I talked to Lyft drivers, a few years ago, they said it was like 30% more than Uber. And so there's definitely some incentives, at least in Boston, that Uber is offering. And I think that's why some of these people cancel the rides, because maybe they're driving for both and they get an option to drive with Uber.
I mean, it's hard to know why Lyft is having the problem with drivers continually canceling. Mm-hmm. And again, we're just talking about two people's experience. Well, actually three, because my daughter as well. There seems to be a pattern there. Mm-hmm. And so Uber does seem to be more reliable, does have 3/4 of the market. But if Lyft ceases to exist,
oh boy,
wow,
that would be bad.
Wow. I mean, I guess I'm back to renting cars at that point, because you get that monopoly and it's ugly. Oh, interesting thing, that night I was at the airport that Uber was $112 and Lyft was $46. While I was waiting for the Lyft, there was a taxi stand, and a long line of people waiting at the taxi stand. And the line never moved because the entire time I was waiting, a taxi never came.
Wow.
That Uber and Lyft have so decimated the taxi industry that taxis have become, in many places, almost not a functioning part of the market.